Welcome to my channel, Sakura Cardia. Finally introducing myself like this in my videos. So today I'm just gonna talk, well, really just explore the different kinds of anime merchandise you can get, which there is so much of it. But before I really get into like different kinds of merchandise, I just really want to mention beforehand that please don't feel like in order to be an anime collector of any type that you have to collect figures of some sort, because that's not true at all. I know a lot of people on the internet are always like, oh, look at all my new figures, and I mean, I'm guilty of getting figures a lot. I have way too many. But that's not all there is to collecting for anime, which is why I wanted to make this video, because I feel like a lot of people just feel like they have to collect figures and not because there's other types of things out there as well they can collect for their favorite animes. So like starting off with, obviously there's always been wall scrolls. This right here is a poster. Tons of them are available. You can get like basic posters at Walmart sometimes. To be fair, that is mainstream anime. But something I feel like that everybody should have at least some access to is posters and wall scrolls that are pretty easy to collect. Other things that might be more easy is CDs. Of course, this depends on if you are a CD type of person and want that physical media, and if you have a way to use them, or if you even want them at all, because this is definitely a little bit a specific type of taste. We do also have lots of things like plush. They come in all sorts of different sizes. This is like small, medium sizes. There's the big ones, like there's the ones as big as people. I've got like this big Pikachu here. There's always those options. Speaking of plushy things, there's pillows. You can always buy pillows. They are really easy to bootleg though, so if you want pillows, just keep an eye on who's selling it, please. Like, don't go buy pillows from wish.com, because you're not getting an official item if you buy it from Wish. Like, just no. Absolutely no. Other things is there's also pillowcases. I have a Sailor Moon one for just my standard pillow size. They do also make a lot of pillowcases that are the square size as well, along with there's a lot of official body pillow covers as well from Japan. Like, I have a Marin one on pre-order right now, and to go with that one, they also just, or I think it kind of informally goes with it, they just put up a pre-order in like the last couple weeks for a bed sheet of her, which those do exist. Like, they're not like fictitious things and only things that bootleggers make. They actually exist. They're just not super duper common. So there's like those. Some other things that are kind of uncommon is stationery. There's sticky notes, stickers, pens, pencils, rulers, notebooks, you name it. It's a lot easier to find them in Japan, but you can get some outside of Japan. Just a lot of times you gotta really pay for the importation fees to get it, so do keep that in mind. Other types of merchandise is, I'm using this as an example, but you can get the lithograph art, or like this came out of an Ichiban Kuji, which is a little bit more accessible depending on where you live, but there's lots of formally framed items too. A lot of them come signed, or there's the reproduction arts, which have the like 1 out of 200 made or something like that, which do happen a lot for anime merchandise. If you go to places like Right Stuff too, every so often you'll see a new art reproduction go up for sale on there. Same with Otaku Mode. Sorry if you hear jingling, my kitten is playing in the background. Other types of merch that you can get, this is kind of more just like desk accessories too, but you can get playmats that work great for desks, and they don't have to be. We'll do the obvious one for figures. You can get scale figures, you can get prize, you can get Nendroids. My Nanus has this robot trying to go everywhere, so I'm just holding it. I'm having technical difficulties with her leaf she's supposed to be holding. This is the top of it, but you can get Figma, except Figma is not exactly as cheap as it used to be anymore, so there's like the basic figure types. Obviously you can get into like specific branding as well, like Artifacts J, but there's like that. Another type of thing you can get for anime merch is dolls. Oops, I'm sorry, Haruhi. please do pardon my Haruhi. She's old and is having technical difficulties at the moment. But like there's the pull-up dolls that are really famous for having anime characters, which is a lot more affordable, honestly. If I'm gonna admit, with the Dolphy I just held up, are not quite as affordable. But there is also like mini pull-up lines, and there is a couple of other doll companies, like this 9S and 2B here is considered as a doll. They're kind of like plush, but they do have the skeleton of a doll. So those are kind of like another type of thing. Obviously you can always buy clothing, t-shirts are the easiest to get anywhere. Japan has like a ton of undergarments you can get too. You can also get furniture for your anime related items. Like specifically off the top of my head, I can rattle off that they've made the Hatsune Miku gaming chairs. A couple of other anime series have also had that collaboration as well. Another thing I can think of is Madoka Magica also had a collaboration where they had the Ottoman. There was some chests for those for Madoka. They also made their soul gems as like actual lamps, and you get rugs as well. So there's like other that type of literally furniture you can get for anime as well. You can also get computer accessories, which are officially licensed headsets, mice, keyboards. I don't think anybody's done a monitor. Correct me about that, but I do know that there's been several collaborations on towers. Miku is the one that's had, I think, the most. I think she's had a couple. But I do know that there was, in the past like year, there was a new Evangelion one, which looks really awesome. Sadly, like it's not anywhere near as powerful as building your own computer, but if you're just a super big fan of that series and you just would kind of like a desktop, I don't really see the harm in getting it. I see some other things I haven't mentioned. Actually, a couple are probably obvious, which you can get buttons and pins for your anime characters. You can also get other kinds of room accessories like the, right stuff been calling them otaku lamps, but the LED lamps, there's a lot of import ones that are available too. You can have beach towels, which they haven't been making as many lately. They make backpacks, which, speaking of backpacks, there is the whole realm of getting Ita bags to display your buttons and pins in. There's also window decals. Yes, those actually exist officially. You can also get video games. Most of it's actually just anime inspired, but there is certain series will get their... Apologies about the camera. My kitten has just decided to show up and is apparently pushing the camera around. You can get little pouches like this, or like pencil cases. You can get fans. And I don't mean the ones that like the electric ones. Oh, I'm sure somebody in Japan has made electric fans, but I was actually referring to the different types of hand fans you can get. Obviously, you can get lanyards. I think everyone talks about their lanyards, but there's a lot of anime lanyards out there. And if you do end up at a con, there's usually, at least if it's bigger, there's at least one lanyard being given out somewhere, or as part of your badge. Another thing you can get, which I have too much of, again, which is anime blankets. You can also get a lot of import ones, which are a lot smaller, made out of a different kind of material than the traditional microfiber blankets we get. Some of the other obscure items are things like, randomly in Japan, there'll be collaboration with fragrances, makeup companies, like Sailor Moon, I think in November. They're doing a crossover with a cosmetic company that's pretty big, but there's like collaborations like those for fancy items. Japan has a lot of those, honestly, so if you want most of those, just go to Japan. It's way easier to get that stuff. Which, speaking of things that are in Japan, if you go to the cafes in Japan, you can get things like plateware that are exclusive to that cafe. There is also lots of officially, like not outside of cafes, released plate and dishware. Occasionally some of the Ichiban Kujis will have that kind of stuff, like one of the That Time I Was Reincarnated Slime ones had this, they call it a rice bowl, but the thing's huge. Like, I use it for ramen. It's such an amazing bowl for that, and I wish they did more of these. They do make plenty of plates, cups, big plates, small plates, dishware, or like utensils. Chopsticks, obviously. They make so many chopsticks. Other Tupperwares. This one's kind of probably a little niche, but things like board games would be a very specific type of collecting for anime, but there is a lot of them. They get some, like there was a new Konosuba game I know that was in the works. FMA was getting one. So stuff like that also is a very different collectible too. Another big one that Japan loves, and I know it's kind of hit or miss with the anime crowd depending on what it is, but model kits. Also things like official collaboration for shoes. Not a common one at all, but like they Sailor Moon Vans that came out in the past year. Stuff like that is pretty just different in general to have. Obviously you can collect manga, but manga is technically just manga, not exactly anime if you want to get like really nitty gritty. But I mean, it's honestly like in the same whole ballpark. You can collect light novels too. Obviously, you can be a huge collector of physical anime on Blu-ray DVD. If you want to count like the food stuff as collectibles, or at least get the food out of it and then keep the packaging, like that's still kind of collectible on its own. They've also always made like hair accessories and cosplay items as well, officially licensed, which big problem with that is if you actually want to wear that, you have to be really mindful about what size you're ordering and what your size is, because like a US XL does not exist in JP sizing. That's like double X or triple X in Japan. So just you have to keep an eye on that. And certain body types just will never fit into a Japanese cosplay no matter how hard you try, because it just don't go up that size. Or there'll be certain cosplays that they've constricted like the shoulders to be X size because it's kind of how the character's not supposed to have like wide shoulders. So I'm sorry if you have broad shoulders, you might rip some cosplays, which I'm fully guilty of ripping one of mine, because Japanese people are not the same size, obviously, and that's nothing against them. Just if you want to have those cosplays, you have to be really careful about that, because you could end up damaging several $100s worth of stuff. Okay, I just have a little bit more to go. Some of these are a little bit more unusual as well. But anyways, moving on. A common thing or pops up every so often is proplicas, or things like proplica. Like they make noises. Perfect for cosplay, realistic cosplay at least. See, like next on the list, this is now really common nowadays to have acrylics. This one came out of an Ichiban Kuji for this particular style, but you can get a lot of them out of Ichiban Kujis, or a lot of them are sold separately, loose. Or they'll make like ones for like in little blind box versions. I have a Chobits, and this is a La Storia dell'Arcana Familia one with that like almost fan art looking style, which acrylics are pretty affordable too compared to like some of the other stuff. I mean, when it gets out of print, it's all kind of the same honestly at the end of the day. Another thing that a lot of newer fans like don't even know what this is, so I'm going to mention it. And it is a shikishi. They look like this. Back's boring. There's a pretty art of some sort. This is a Data Live one. Their purpose in Japan is you're supposed to bring them to like signing events and get the voice actor's signature on them. Obviously, if you don't live in Japan, you can't really get this signed. So they're just really nice to collect. I keep a couple on my desk as just pretty pictures. Wow, they just look really nice. And the art that they have on them usually is kind of exclusive to that specific product. It usually doesn't show up in art books. Sometimes they will, but not usually. So if there's one that you really like the art for, I suggest getting them. Though a lot of them do come as blind boxes as well, so that is something to note. And of course, certain ones also come as like magazine special as well, so that can be a little difficult to collect the specific ones you're looking for. Speaking of magazines, you can easily collect plenty of anime magazines. I have an Otaku USA one here. This one's really old. This one's 2013. I do have more recent magazines. This is just the first one I grabbed. There is also the New Type magazine and the Megami are the other two big ones that a lot of people are aware of. Which, if you're looking for an older magazine, if you're not in Japan, then get really expensive. But if you're in Japan or looking at a Japanese seller that is reselling the old magazines that like they took in as trade-ins. They're pretty cheap. Okay, a couple things that aren't quite as common for most series would be, first up, a lunchbox. Yes, this is a lunchbox, like full on. They exist. You can get anime umbrellas. They're not cheap. So, do keep that in mind. Oh, I should say majority of them are not cheap. There is a newer company that has been making them lately that they're pretty affordable, and sometimes they'll show up in places like Hot Topic. Okay, another thing to talk about. Most animes don't have this, but the ones that have idols do usually end up with some sort of light stick. And Happy Coat, I just did not pull. Oh, that is bright. So you can get light sticks for any or most of the idol animes. I personally do not own any yet. I'm hoping to in the future, but you can get curtains for anime characters. And I don't mean, I'm sure they make the window curtains too, but I'm actually referring to the doorway ones, like the ones you'll see in like the ramen shops with like, they've got the little flaps that are divided. They do make anime ones of those to like separate your doorways, which is super cool. Okay, the next up on the list is another thing I think a lot of newer anime fans don't realize exists, and that is animation cels, which I can insert a sample picture here. These are literally the art prints that they made. I think early 2000s, late 99 was when they really stopped using the animation cels to make anime, but it's how they used to make the anime. Now it's all digital, so you can't buy like the physical art prints that they used to make the anime come to life. So if you're a fan of older series, this is just a really cool item to get, because like it was part of the production and it's a one of a kind. There is not another copy of that cel anywhere on the planet. There is one cel for that scene, and that is it. And I should say specific point in time for the anime, because someone waving, that will be maybe a series of 20 different cels with their hand like going like this, but they are all still unique to make the segment of images go together. And the animation cels are a good alternative for things that don't have any merchandise. So if you can find the cels, they're just great for things that don't have merch. I would like to note they can get very expensive. Evangelion and Sailor Moon are probably the top two, or some of the top ones for price tag for getting an animation cel, along with Studio Ghibli, their older ones. Those literally go for thousands if you get them. So you've really got to watch which series you're looking for. Some of them can be as cheap as $10. Others will be a couple hundreds. Others will be thousands. Cards for your anime series, which is another good alternative for things that don't have much merchandise. Like I have a Vivid Red set. This is for the card game White Shorts. But you can also get cards in different card games, or just older series. Also, a lot of them had their own specific card game as well. Bandai every now and then is making a new card game. So if you're into cards, that's always an option. There's always some sort of anime card game in the production. One Piece is having their new card game come out in like a couple weeks, I think. So kind of the weird things that you can get is you literally can get sanitary products with anime stuff on it. Now to be fair, that's mostly Ava and Sailor Moon. There was some special event that they had in Japan where they were giving out branded Sailor Moon stuff. But there is also things like razors. Ava, sorry, did I say something? And there's also like eye droplets. You can get glasses for like your favorite anime characters. If you go to Otaku mode, they are the ones that mainly have that kind of stuff, where it's the collaboration glasses, and they'll have like Rin version, and they'll have a Shinji, and you get the point. There's really old things like Sailor Moon has a pinata. I kid you not, it has a pinata. Another thing is mini fridges. These are a little bit more common. Every now and then you'll see like a Yu-Gi-Oh, Ava, Hello Kitty, blah 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 blah. So I think those are a little bit more in circulation, but they're not exactly common or easy to get. Okay, so at the end there, I think I went kind of like, there was definitely a little bit of a weird tangent of some less uncommon things, but what is out there to buy for anime merch. Obviously, I can't name every single thing on the planet. That's just physically impossible, but for the most part, I think this was like the wide variety, at least, of like what is available to get. And I just figured it'd be helpful for some people to have like a guide or a starting point to know what kind of things they can find and collect for anime, because once again, like, there's so many people that only collect figures and kind of come across as like the only way you can be an anime collector is you need to collect figures, which, I'm sorry, pal, that's wrong. Like, to be an anime collector, you don't have to collect figures. You don't have to collect the DVDs or Blu-rays. Like, you can collect whatever anime thing you want and still be an anime collector. So that's like my main message here. But anyways, I hope this was helpful and informative. And apologize at the end here where I was getting like a little sniffly. My allergies are really bothering me now. But yeah, thank you so much and have a good one.